The night shift always began the same way. The city slowed down, lights dimmed, and the office building emptied until only echoes remained. By 10 o'clock, laughter from the daytime staff had faded, replaced by the low hum of streetlights and the distant sound of traffic. At the front gate stood the night guard, motionless except for the occasional shift of weight from one foot to the other. He was a man most people barely noticed. Medium height, straight posture, uniform always clean and neatly pressed. His name badge was there, but no one ever bothered to read it. To them, he was just the silent guard. He greeted everyone with a nod, never a word. Some thought he was shy. Others thought he was slow. A few assumed he didn't understand their language very well. None of them were right, but none of them cared enough to find out. Inside the building, a group of late working employees gathered their things, joking loudly as they headed for the exit. One of them glanced at the guard and smirked. "Same statue, same pose," he said, laughing. "I swear, he hasn't moved all night." Another chimed in, "Do you think he even hears us? Maybe he's switched off after sunset." They laughed as they walked past him. The guard heard every word. He always did. But he kept his eyes forward, his expression calm. Silence, to him, was not weakness. It was a choice he had learned long ago. As the doors closed behind the employees, the building returned to stillness. The guard resumed his watch, scanning the perimeter with quiet focus. He noticed details others never did, the flicker of a light across the street, the rhythm of footsteps in the distance, the subtle change in the air when something felt off. Nights like these were long, but they were predictable. And predictable nights were safe nights. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. The city outside grew quieter, but never fully asleep. Somewhere nearby, a siren wailed briefly before fading away. The guard adjusted his cap slightly and continued standing at attention. He did not lean on the gate or check his phone. His eyes remained alert, trained by years of discipline. Around 1 in the morning, a car slowed as it approached the building. Nothing unusual, taxis passed by often, sometimes stopping to ask for directions. But this car was different. Its headlights were brighter, cleaner. The engine purred smoothly, not like the worn vehicles that usually passed through the area. The guard noticed it immediately. The car didn't stop. It continued past the gate and disappeared down the street. The guard watched until the taillights vanished, then returned his gaze to the surroundings. He trusted his instincts, but he also trusted patience. If something mattered, it would return. Inside the guardhouse, a small heater buzzed softly. The guard did not sit. He rarely did. Standing kept his mind sharp. His thoughts drifted briefly, not to the insults from earlier, but to memories he kept carefully locked away. Nights had a way of stirring old chapters, chapters written in urgency and fear rather than silence. He remembered a different night, a year ago, when the air had felt heavy in the same way. Back then, the building had been louder, filled with an event that ran late into the evening. Important guests. Expensive suits. Confident voices. And one young woman who had stepped outside alone, distracted by her phone, unaware of how close danger had been. He pushed the memory aside. The past did not need revisiting tonight. At 2:30, footsteps echoed from inside the building. A cleaning crew finished their rounds, pushing carts toward the exit. One of them glanced at the guard and gave a tired nod. The guard returned it. No words were exchanged. Words were unnecessary. Minutes later, the streetlights reflected off polished metal again. The same car had returned. This time, it slowed as it approached the gate. The guard straightened, his senses sharpening instantly. The car rolled to a stop directly in front of him. The engine idled, low and controlled. The windows were tinted, hiding whoever sat inside. For a brief moment, the world seemed to pause. The driver's door opened first. A man in a dark suit stepped out, scanning the area quickly. His movements were efficient, trained. He walked around to the back of the car and opened the rear door with deliberate care. The guard did not react outwardly, but internally, he was already assessing. Late hour. Luxury vehicle. Security-conscious driver. Whoever was inside mattered. A man stepped out of the back seat. Even in the dim light, there was no mistaking him. His presence carried weight, the kind that commanded attention without demanding it. His suit was simple but perfectly tailored. His expression was calm, but his eyes were sharp, observant. This was not someone who visited buildings unannounced at night without reason. The guard recognized him immediately. The CEO. Before the guard could react, the man raised a hand slightly, not in greeting, but in acknowledgement. He walked forward, stopping just short of the gate. For a moment, the two men looked at each other in silence. The CEO spoke first. "Good evening," he said. The guard nodded respectfully. The driver looked confused, glancing between them. He clearly hadn't expected a conversation to begin at the gate. The CEO studied the guard's face, as if confirming something he already knew. A faint smile appeared, not one of amusement, but of recognition. "I was hoping you'd be on duty tonight," he said. The guard remained silent, but his eyes met the CEO's steadily. "I don't think you ever gave your name," the CEO continued. "Not to the staff, anyway." The guard reached up calmly and tapped the name badge on his uniform. The CEO read it and nodded. "I thought so." The moment lingered, heavy with something unspoken. Somewhere inside the building, a security camera continued recording, capturing an interaction no one else would witness until later. The CEO took a step closer to the gate. "You probably don't remember me," he said, his voice low, "but I remember you very well." The guard's expression did not change, but his posture softened just slightly. He remembered. The CEO turned his head briefly, looking back at the empty building behind him. "Funny how quiet this place is at night," he said. "It tells you a lot about who's really paying attention." He looked back at the guard. "I won't keep you long," he said. "I just wanted to see you again. And to make sure you were still here." The guard nodded once. The CEO smiled. "Good," he said. "Some things shouldn't change." He turned and walked back to the car. The driver closed the door and hurried to his seat. Moments later, the engine revved softly, and the car pulled away into the night. The guard watched until it disappeared, then returned to his post. By morning, laughter would return. Jokes would be made again. But something had shifted, even if no one else yet realized it. The night guard stood silently, as he always had. But the night now carried a secret. Morning arrived quietly, the way it always did after a long night. The sky shifted from deep blue to pale gray, and the city slowly shook itself awake. The guard remained at his post as the sun crept higher, his shift nearly over. The events of the night replayed in his mind, not with excitement, but with the calm weight of inevitability. Encounters like that were rare now, but they reminded him that the past never truly disappeared. It simply waited. The day guard arrived just before 7, yawning and stretching as he approached the gate. "Morning," he said casually. The silent guard nodded in return, removed his cap, and signed out. No one asked him how his night had been. No one ever did. He walked away from the building at an unhurried pace, blending into the growing crowd of commuters. By 9 o'clock, the office was alive again. Phones rang, elevators chimed, and conversations bounced off glass walls. The laughter from the previous evening returned, louder in the daylight. A small group gathered near the coffee machine, discussing weekend plans and complaining about deadlines. "Did you see the guard last night?" one of them said. "Same guy, same silence. I don't know how he stands there for 12 hours without saying a word." Another shrugged. "As long as he opens the gate, who cares?" They moved on to another topic, unaware that upstairs, in the top-floor office, a very different conversation was taking place. The CEO stood by the window, hands clasped behind his back, looking down at the city. His assistant sat across from his desk, tablet in hand. "You asked for the overnight security reports," she said. There was nothing unusual. No incidents. The CEO nodded slowly. "And the night guard?" She looked up. "Which one?" "The one at the front gate," he said. "What's his record?" She tapped on the screen, scanning. "Clean. No complaints. Rarely takes days off. No disciplinary notes. Honestly, he barely appears in the system." "That's about right," the CEO said quietly. She hesitated. "May I ask why you're interested?" He turned from the window. "Because a year ago, he prevented something that would have destroyed this company. And my family." Her eyes widened slightly. "I'm not sure I follow." The CEO sat down. "My daughter attended that charity event last year. Late night. High-profile guests. She stepped outside alone. The cameras missed what happened next." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Someone followed her. Not a random thief. Someone who knew the building, the exits, the blind spots." The assistant listened intently. "The only reason she walked away unharmed," he continued, "is because one man noticed what others didn't." He intervened quietly. "No scene. No reports." He escorted her back inside and returned to his post. The assistant frowned. "Why wasn't this documented?" "Because he didn't file anything," the CEO said. "And my daughter, shaken but safe, didn't want attention. She told me later. By then, it was already over." Silence filled the room. "I asked him his name that night," the CEO said. "He gave it to me, nodded, and went back to work. No demands. No expectations." The assistant looked down at the tablet again. "What would you like to do?" The CEO thought for a moment. "Nothing yet," he said. "But I want eyes on how he's treated. By everyone." Downstairs, the silent guard sat on a bus heading home. He watched the city pass by through the window, reflections blurring buildings into streaks of light and shadow. His apartment was small, modest, and quiet. Just the way he preferred it. Inside, he removed his uniform and hung it neatly by the door. A framed photograph sat on the shelf nearby. It showed him years earlier, younger, in a different uniform altogether. His face was serious even then. He looked at the photo for a moment before turning away. Sleep came easily, but it was light. By early afternoon, he was awake again, preparing for another shift. That evening, things felt different before they even began. As he approached the building, he noticed glances lingering longer than usual. A security supervisor stood near the entrance, speaking into a radio. When the silent guard arrived, the supervisor nodded with unfamiliar respect. "Evening," the supervisor said. "You're at the front gate again." The guard nodded, slightly puzzled. Inside, whispers began almost immediately. "Did you hear?" someone murmured. "The CEO was here last night. Late." "Why?" "I don't know. But someone said he stopped at the gate." A few eyes drifted toward the guard through the glass doors.
And neither do we.
He
We're
felt
always
it,
watching,
but did not react.
always ready.
Attention
This
was
city
not
never
something he
sleeps,
sought.
and neither do we.
It was often
We're
a
always
warning
watching,
rather than a reward.
always ready.
As the night
This
deepened,
city never
the
sleeps,
building settled
and
into
neither
its
do we.
familiar rhythm.
We're always watching,
But the mood was
always
altered.
ready.
No
This city
jokes
never
were directed
sleeps,
at the guard.
and neither do we.
No
We're always
laughter followed
watching,
him.
always ready.
Instead, there was
This
curiosity,
city never sleeps,
uncertainty.
and neither do we.
At
We're
around
always
11,
watching,
a junior
always
manager
ready.
approached the gate, hesitating before speaking. Sir," he said. Can you open the gate?" The guard met his eyes calmly and did as asked. Thank you, the manager said, quickly adding, have a good night. The guard nodded. Midnight passed without incident. Then 1 o'clock. The same streetlight flickered across the pavement. The same distant siren echoed and faded. But something else arrived with the quiet. A notification pinged on multiple phones inside the building at once. An internal email from the CEO. People paused, curious, opening the message. It was brief. I want to remind everyone that respect is not earned by volume or visibility, but by character and vigilance. Last night, I was reminded of this by someone who does his job without applause. Let this be a lesson in how we treat those who protect us when we're not watching. There was no name. No explanation. But everyone knew who it was about. From behind the gate, the guard remained unaware of the email, of the shifting opinions, of the growing weight his presence now carried. He stood as he always had, eyes forward, listening to the night. High above him, in the CEO's office, the lights were off. But the message had been sent deliberately, planted like a seed. Change rarely announced itself loudly. Sometimes, it arrived quietly. Just like the night guard.